Welcome, Norbert, all the way from Japan. When did you get in?
I arrived, first of all, good morning to everybody. I arrived on Monday morning, very early flight.
So, last year on the stage we had Andrew Wu and we spoke about China. I mean, one of the greatest parts of this role for me has been learning about the luxury business in Asia. It's obviously incredible markets and incredible stories. How long have you been, tell us first of all about your job for LVMH and how long you've been doing it.
Okay, so I'm running the LVMH group in Japan. That means we have like about 50 maisons in Japan. It's been like, we've been working in Japan since more than 40 years. And my job is to understand the country as much as possible and to mix to make sure that our group takes every good opportunity. And I've been living in Japan more than 35 years. So I've been living in Japan more than in France, actually. And I try to always detect what can be interesting in this market, luxury and non-luxury, consumption market in general, consumers market in general, to make sure that we take advantage of it and develop ourselves. So I work with a few thousand people. It's retail, it's online, offline. I work with media agencies. I work with real estate people. I work with, we do a lot of events as well. We are super active. And it's a job, I was working with other companies before, but I have to say that with LVMH is super captivating, simply because we have a lot of products ranges, and because I think that the Japanese market, and that's something which we might talk about later on, is very mature in terms of luxury, but also offering new opportunities. And if you really catch them, that can be super interesting, and this is what we're doing at LVMH in Japan.
So you've been in Japan for 35 years.
35 years.
And tell us about Japan in 2019. What's different in all this time that you've been there?
And, thanks for the question. So, I mean, I don't know here today how many people have been to Japan or not. I mean, I guess.
How many people have been to Japan?
Very good.
All right.
So come again. Come back. And why you should come back? That's the answer to your question. I mean, 2019. In Japan, I mean, you know, you might read many things about Japan, like this is an aging population, and so on, with fantastic big neighbors, which are very nice countries. But the real truth is that what's happening in Japan right now, and I'm saying this after 35 years of being there, I love the country, so I might be a bit biased, but if you look at the facts, what's happening in Japan right now is something which truly, Jan, I have never seen before. I have never seen this country moving that fast, even during the bubble area, time. I think the Japanese now are in a state of mind where they want to move. The Olympics might be a catalyzer, but it's not only that. The companies, you know, are full of cash. The people are full of money, and there is a kind of state of mind, there is a kind of wish, strong desire to make your life better. And this is like from young people, from middle-aged, and from senior people. And that's something which I can feel in terms of consumption, in terms of real estate projects, in terms of ideas, in terms of the way to enjoy life, in terms of spending. You know, I was recently talking to a real estate agent in a more like doing private houses, apartments. And I was telling him that I could see that in Tokyo, more and more, when you do a new mansion, new residence, 10 floors, 15 floors, before you started with the first floor, second floor were like 50 square meters, 60 square meters apartments. But now the first 5 floors are 20 square meters apartments. Why? Because people live alone longer and longer, and especially women. And this is something which I would like to say. Japanese women, I don't know what kind of image you might have, but I can tell you my wife is Japanese. I have a daughter in Japan as well, French-Japanese daughter. Japanese women are really, to some extent, leading the changes. They live alone. They live alone longer. They work much longer. They consume. They have ideas. I mean, if I have a message which I would like to give to everybody today, and that could be a sort of innovation message, is that Japanese women are not like the ones you might have in your mind. They are very modern. They want to try new things. They want to always ready to see new stores, new concepts, new ideas, new shapes, and contrary to what you may think, they have time. There's a lot of vacation in this country, and that's very good. They have time to see the stores, to have cups of coffees with their friends, to drink champagne, cognac to some extent as well. So the country, there is a kind of very, very good cycle of consumption, which explains why our group is doing well, as well other groups, not only our group, but our group is doing quite well, I have to say, and which is kind of unexpected because up to 5 years ago, Japan has this image of like everything was done, everything was mature, and the country was just like stable. But actually what I can feel is that the people are more dynamic than many years ago, and I think this is linked with what happened in March 2011, the famous earthquake and tsunami in Fukushima, which was for the people the kind of moment when they realized that life can be unfortunately affected. And I think for those guys who are like 15 years old 9 years ago, for those guys who are like 20 years old 9 years ago, they just took it as a sign that life has to be enjoyed. And people spend. The country has a lot of savings, cash, cash in the safes at home, cash in the banks, cash in the companies, and all this cash right now is pouring into the market. And that's the moment which is like, to be frank with you, I haven't seen this in Japan for more than 20 years, and I feel a lot of optimism and a lot of what happens, happens. I mean, people just want to enjoy and to spend and to make new things, and they are very like, they enjoy being disruptive as well.
And so where does the luxury market fit into that then? And specifically, where is Japan within luxury at LVMH? Which market is it?
Okay, so Japanese people from their ancient times have always been very interested in luxury. I mean, have always been very interested in the best of the best for the products. When they started to, the Japanese craftsmen, artisans are super good in terms of textile, wood, metal, flowers arrangement, whatever cooking, Japanese cuisine. So luxury, the best of the best, the excellency, the quest for excellency has always been in these people's DNA. Where do we stand today? A few years ago, up to a few years ago, I think people were more like buying brands, status. You had to buy a good bag. You had to buy good shoes because you had to be equipped with this. I think today, the level of information, the level of knowledge. I was working in publishing industry. Magazines, fashion magazines, cosmetics magazines for a while. So I was in media. The level of information that people have is incredible. And people, when they read a magazine in Japan, they don't flip over. They read the text. They photograph the text, they exchange, they compare, they go to the stores with a lot of information. So where do we stand today in terms of luxury? I think we stand in an extremely interesting period because people go to our stores, and actually competitor stores as well, to find what corresponds to what they want to buy. And it's not always the most expensive product. It can be the most functional one. Can be the one they like. They are not looking for logos everywhere. They are looking for something which really talks more to them personally than to the others. In other words, they are looking for something much more for themselves, not to give a message to outside. They are not selfish, a little bit more selfish than before. They are really aiming at being happy, talking to themselves. That's all.
And as a result, what brands are doing well in Japan these days?
Well, I work with LVMH, so in the first place, I have to say that that's actually true. All our brands are doing okay. Our competitors are also doing well. But what is interesting is that you've got some small companies, new companies in luxury. What is interesting, Jan, is that you've got all these companies in Kyoto, for instance, doing obi for kimono, or doing kimono, themselves, or all these companies doing lacquerware, which are not like Japanese people have always been very much interested in technology. All these companies now are trying to mix their DNA, their heritage with technology. Recently, I was talking to a guy who is doing obi for kimono, you know, these big bells. And he was telling me that he's right now working with some Japanese universities to get some ingredients, something coming from seaweeds and coming actually from also sea animals to mix with the fibers so that these obis would shine at night. So, you know, I mean, the people are...
Craftsmanship plus innovation.
Exactly. It's really, there's a kind of new quest for innovation. Sony innovated the Walkman. Panasonic innovated many things. Hitachi innovated many things. This is like years ago. I think, you know, the bubble, the period between 1985 and 1992, Japanese people have to some extent a bit like, they were like drugged with innovation. And after they were like, it's like having a hangover. And this is coming back. This is coming back, and the level of education is quite strong. So people are just like, I think innovation for Japanese people is a reality. And when I talk to young people, the big difference, there was a kind of 2 decades lost, but when I talk to young people right now, my nephew, for instance, who is 23 years old, my wife is Japanese. When I talk to him, he doesn't want to work for a big company. He wants to work for a company which is new, which is not that big, not a big, you know, hierarchy, but he wants to express himself. So there is it's a big laboratory
that expresses his values.
His values.
Audience, in about 5 minutes, we're going to take questions. So if you have questions for Norbert, please send them to the Slido. I would tell you how to do it if I knew the exact instructions. Hopefully you do Slido, S-L-I-D-O-O. Tell us about the customer experience, and in particular, the online versus retail. Are people shopping e-commerce? Are they using digital cash? What is that? You know, you have an ecosystem of early adopters. I know that Japan has a higher penetration of 4G than almost anywhere else in the world. When you poll Japanese customers, have you bought online? They're second in the world, I think, to the UK. Yet it seems a little slow in terms of overall e-commerce adoption. Where is that, and why?
So, I mean, first of all, I mean, of course, the level of penetration of smartphones in this country is extremely high. You know, we have a social network called Line, which was actually invented, I mean, started just after the earthquake, I mean, 2012. And Japanese people, you know, they have long commuting hours. So everybody actually is checking information online. But the sales online is, of course, increasing for functional items. But people, you know, the level of customer service in Japan, the level of information which you can get from salespeople in the stores is so high that people still enjoy and shop offline, I mean, in the stores. And I have to say, I mean, for all those who have been to Japan, I'm sure you have experienced like the pleasure, what it is to be in a Japanese store. You just like enjoy the atmosphere, the way people greet you, the smiles. The customer experience is just like, I mean, I live in Japan. We are spoiled. We are in this country, I think, we became customer service addicted. When I go abroad, when I go to France, which is a very nice country as well, when I go to the States, another fantastic country, I always like feel like customer service is nice, but could be a bit improved. In Japan, we have an incredible level of customer service. It's not fake. It's not like hypocrisy. It's really the will to serve the customers better. So online sales are, in this country, late compared with other similar countries. But I think one of the main reasons is that the offline experience being so fantastic and people having time to experience the offline experience, they just continue buying offline. But don't misunderstand me. They use online information a lot. And I mean, like everywhere in the world, without smartphone, without iPhone or Samsung or any other brand, they couldn't survive. They couldn't survive. But in terms of online, purely online sales, the country still is, I would say, under development.
Yeah.
Payment, cashless payment, starting.
Well, and I've heard that on the cashless payment front that the government is actually incentivizing the move to cashless payment. So it seems like the government has some power to push things forward faster.
Last Friday, I was at a meeting of the Japan Department Stores Association, and the Minister of Trade, Mr. Seko, came to see us, and he's quite a nice guy, actually. And the first thing he said, look, I was in a department store 10 days ago with my wife. I wanted to buy a suit, and I couldn't pay with my iPhone. What's going on? It's a department store. That's you. He was pointing out at this department store, so the guy was like so embarrassed. And actually, yes, the government is aiming a lot for cashless payment. It takes time because people are very resistant. You know, in many restaurants in Tokyo, still today, it's not possible to pay by credit cards. In many taxis, still today, it's not possible to pay by credit cards. In many small companies, still today, you get your salary by cash. So, but you know, Japan, contrary to what you may think, can change quite quickly, and the Olympics are a big catalyzer. So I guess, I mean, what I'm saying right now, if you invite me again next year at VivaTech 2020, I may probably tell you that cashless has improved a lot. The government is incentivizing this, and I think the people themselves, they are fed up with carrying cash.
And what about, last question before we go to the audience, what about some of the other services? You know, you mentioned Line, but there are some big retailers, ZozoTown.
Yes.
What's the one that is like Taobao? It's sort of the
Rakuten, yes.
And the eBay one where
Yes.
there's some parallel. What are the services that? But they also use many of the U.S. services: Google, YouTube, Amazon.
Completely.
I think Japan is the #2 country for Amazon. What's that landscape look like?
Okay, I think people are using those services for daily goods. Many people are living alone. Many women are living alone. Many men are living alone. And in the new mansion, the new apartment towers which are being constructed in Tokyo, you have what we call a Takubin box. That means a box where you can put your order and you get it at night. So I would say this is developing quite fast for functional items. Uniqlo, for instance, which is selling very good products, but more functional, not like fashion. It's a good company. I mean, their sales online is about like 15% of their total sales. So this is developing. But I would say that people are using this for very functional things, like theater tickets, trips, sending your golf equipment to your golf course. But when it comes to luxury, when it comes to something which you really want to buy and keep for the rest of your life, they would go offline. Getting information online and go offline.
Let's go to the audience question. Top one's a great one. All eyes on Japan for the Olympics next year. I will be there. I'll tell you why. First time skateboarding and surfing are in the Olympics. But how can global brands take advantage of this big cultural moment?
Well, I mean, it's going to be, you're right. I mean, it's going to be something that the whole world will be, the whole world is, it's not only the Olympics. We just changed the emperor, and that's very important for the country. I just want to insist on this before I answer this question. I mean, changing the emperor in this country when the previous one is still alive, it's something which did not happen. The last time was 250 years ago.
Wow.
So not many witnesses alive. And, but I mean, Japanese people are very good at starting from zero again. So a new emperor is a new state of mind. It's like you clean everything from the past and you start again. The Olympics, it's a good moment for the brands to get more exposure, of course, in terms of advertising. It's a good moment for the brands to also, I would say, be more present in people's minds. You know, a lot of new stores are opening in Tokyo. It's not only department stores, but you've got like more station buildings, you've got like more fashion buildings, you've got like more like freestanding stores. And the Japanese people are also quite good at developing new retail areas. For those who know Tokyo, Shibuya, for instance, we all know Shibuya, is going to change from this year like crazy. And the Olympics is actually the catalyzer. The country just wants to be beautiful for the whole world. And Shinagawa, for those who don't know, it's a place in Tokyo which is in the southeast of Tokyo, is going to be completely redeveloped. Shinjuku as well. I mean, I have never seen in these 35 years in this country so many real estate projects, so many retail square meters, new, so many actually Japanese developers willing to get foreign brands. It's like as if the doors were open before, but no, they are just like, there is no door anymore. The gate is gone. The gate is gone, and the Japanese people just want to get the whole world in their country.
So in that, when you have that much going on, what does it take for a brand to cut through the noise and get to a consumer? How do you communicate with them today?
I mean, of course, you use Line. Line is 70 million people. That means more than half of the total population. You can use Instagram, which is extremely in Japan going up. Facebook is a bit weaker, but Line, Instagram. I believe very much as well in outdoor advertising. You've got more and more like posters. MC Doco is a very good company doing this in Japan. And also you have like the traditional media channels like TV and newspapers are still very strong, and magazines of course as well. But I would say Line is unavoidable in this country now. And it's only in Japan actually. Japan, Taiwan, a little bit of Thailand, but mainly Japan.
Tell us about
Workplace.
They're changing. I know. Now I want to know. Is this one better than the last one? You see one there that you want to answer? I'll let you choose.
No. I mean, I'm just seeing a question, which is thank you for your insights in Japanese consumer revolution. Can you talk to us through how these shifts are affecting Japanese workplace culture? I don't know who asked this question, but it's a very interesting question. You might think that Japanese people work all the time until late at night, never take holidays. Forget about that. Forget about this image. Japanese people, especially young people, especially women, and I have to say that a lot of changes in this society, as I said earlier, are driven by women, really. Japanese people work less and less, and they are very happy with this. Very happy with this. You know, before the war, Japanese people actually were not like that hard workers. It became after. And in the workplace, now you have to provide to people vacations, training, of course, higher salaries, extremely nice working environment. Don't forget that in this country, the unemployment rate is 2.3%. That means it will never go down. So my nephew, when he graduated from university at the age of 22 years old last year, he loved mechanics. And Toyota, a great company, offered him like a job, and he said, no, I prefer to go for a much smaller company because I'm going to be more involved in mechanicals. So what I want to say is that they are looking, people are looking for direct implication in what you do. And the working environment has to be extremely seducing because I think people just want cool environments. You know, the typical image of those Japanese companies with the bucho, the division manager, and the team over there like working like crazy is gone. It's gone. Right. And it's going actually, it's going much faster than I thought, which compels companies to redefine their working environment, to redefine their rules of employment, and to make sure that the people are happy and stay. Otherwise, they go. Very interesting question.
Thank you. One final question.
Yes.
And then it's time for us to go. Predictions for the future for Japan? Where will we find Japan in a few years' time?
A few years' time, Japan, the population will decrease. That's for sure. There will be more immigrants, which is extremely nice. There will be people coming from Vietnam, from China, of course, from Indonesia. You know, I live in a very, very good, very normal Japanese environment in Tokyo. It's a normal Japanese condominium. Recently, they opened a mosque, Muslim mosque, because we have a lot of Indonesians. Very nice. So I see Japan as a much more cosmopolitan society, that's for sure. And I see Japan as a much more decomplexed country. Decomplexed. That means, well, they just want to enjoy life. And I see Japan as a much more spending country. I personally see Japan as an extremely nice country to live in the future, probably even better than before. Fantastic services, helping senior people. So I personally have a strong optimistic view about Japan. I think we clearly need to promote more women working with us. We clearly need also to promote more senior people working with us. You know, when you are 65 in Japan, you are in good health, you want to spend money, even 75, and I see more people coming. So I'm quite optimistic. Nevertheless, like any society which is like changing rapidly, we have to be careful. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I'm more than happy to keep contributing to these changes within LVMH, obviously.
Excellent.
That's all. I'm not sure all this is very interesting for all of you, but the only message which I have is that...
Is it interesting for you?
For those who...
Thank you,
Came to
Norbert.
Japan, come back, and
Thank
for
you.
those who have not come.
I'm glad to hear the optimism. Spending a couple years in Japan is a personal dream of mine, so I'm glad to hear the future looks bright.
Anytime.
Thank you so much for spending the time with us
Thank you for your
today.
time.
And maybe we'll see you back next year.